According to Zonda, 98% of millennials want to become a homeowner at some point if they aren't already. But why? Today, we're going to chat about what the main reasons are that particular generation is wanting to become homeowners. That's what we're going to discuss today.
Millennials.
Yeah.
That's on the topic.
Yep.
The big topic of discussion.
Millennials and buying houses and, why they want to. Some of them aren't.
Are we considered millennials? Excuse me. What
No.
are we? Are we Gen
I think
Z?
Millennials are people age 27 to 45. Because I just looked this up. Because I was like, what's a millennial in 2023 at the time of filming this? So we just missed the cutoff. We're Gen Zs technically.
Okay, so technically.
Yeah, we're technically Generation Z.
So
but
90s babies.
But yeah, I think it's like starting in early 80s all the way till like
That's cool.
mid 90s.
I mean, all these millennials, they get the cool punk music. They get the 1990s music festivals. I mean, by then they were certainly teenagers and early 20s.
Some of them were. Some of them.
I mean,
maybe.
if you're born in
1980,
80s,
yeah,
by
some
late
of them
90s,
were.
you're
But there's a really big difference between an old millennial and a younger millennial because someone that's like a couple years older than us, that's a younger millennial versus someone who's like 40. Like that's a very big difference in where you're at in your life and so many different things. But
yeah, I feel like the world is so much different though.
I'm curious, what's the youngest Gen Z? Because if we're like on the older spectrum of Gen Z, like I kind of want to look this.
It's like 2004 or 7.
So would that be like
here, let me look
15-year-olds, 10-year-olds? Like what's the youngest?
Gen Z.
19. What's the youngest?
Weird.
I know, I have no clue.
Gen Z.
So
let's see.
Generation Z.
Between 9 and 24 years old.
That was in.
So
that's old.
if you were born between 1997 and 2012.
Wow. So
2012.
we're both 97. So we're like the oldest.
We're literally the oldest Gen
we're the
Zs.
oldest.
So we're talking about how.
Do I know anyone born in 2012? No.
I don't.
I don't know. 2012, 13.
They'd be.
That's crazy.
That's 11 years old right now?
Yeah. That's crazy. Wow.
I don't know too many 11-year-olds.
Yeah, but that's crazy that you're like technically in the same generation, but it's also crazy because like someone who's in their late 20s and like early 40s, you're in different spots in your life. But the whole moral of today,
I think
the whole moral of the story.
Myself as a millennial.
You do?
I think I would.
Yeah, I don't really categorize myself as any. I don't really identify as a Gen Z or a millennial.
I never use that term.
I don't really think of myself as like in the generation.
I don't know. We're branding ourselves.
I know.
Man, I don't want to be a brand.
I don't really brand. Yeah, I don't really think of myself as either of those.
But today's topic of discussion is geared towards millennials. And I think this is huge, though, because they're done with college. They're educated people. We're not talking about 12-year-olds here. I mean, Gen Z is still part of that generation. Millennials, you guys right now, our audience, if you are a millennial, I just missed the cutoff. I'm so sorry. But you have more than likely gone through high school. You may have kids. You should. I mean, if you haven't already. I mean, 1980. I mean, when's a woman not able to bear children?
You can't say that. Some millennials are only.
Babies can't be made after a certain age.
Some millennials are only like 27.
No, I wasn't going off
a lot of time. Like you're talking about someone that's like 40 or 45.
Yeah.
I know
medically.
I know of a lady who just had twins at age 50. And they're healthy, and she's healthy. Wow. So there is what?
Wait, there is a clock.
There is a cutoff. There is a clock, but it's different for everyone. We don't need to talk about that.
No, I'm not talking about that at all. That's not my goal and intent. But what I'm telling you is the category is maturity. Okay, that is my main point here. Forget anything if that set you off. The main point is you are a well-educated individual with life experience. You have maturity. You have seen things in your life, maybe good, maybe bad. But right now, this is a real estate podcast, and we really are going to be going over why millennials haven't or have bought real estate.
No.
What's the real topic of discussion here?
Okay, I said it at the beginning. I'll repeat myself. Why, according to this article from this website, Zonda, why 98% of millennials claim that they want to be homeowners, although obviously, a lot of them aren't. Some of them are. We work with a lot of millennials. I would say that's a pretty big age bracket. I would say more often than not, our clients that we work with are millennials just because of the nature of the people that we work with. We work with a lot of out of state relocation clients. These are people who are usually they have a home to sell. Sometimes they're first time buyers moving to Oregon, but usually they have a home to sell. So they purchased before. And I feel like a lot of my clients are like mid to older millennials, I would say. Yeah. But they're on their second house maybe, and they're moving to Oregon, and we help them relocate. So
yes. We kind of work with like not old people, but the older generation. I'd say the older side of this millennial.
The older side of millennials. Yeah, not like a lot of boomers.
Like we're not calling anybody old here, but
I mean, there's multiple generations above that. Yeah, older compared to us. But no, that is really true.
That is our clientele. And it's like, why do we
But it didn't used to be.
That
it's because I can tell you exactly why those people that we're working with that are in that age bracket. If I look on the analytics, we have a separate, so this is one YouTube channel that we have. Hello, welcome. We have a separate YouTube channel called Oregon Homes with Mariah, Vettrus, Crawford. That's where most of our clients come from. And if I look on that channel, actually just did this the other day, if I look at the back end analytics and see what is the average age range of someone viewing this, my videos.
Their ages in?
No, but like Google knows everything. They know how old the average people are.
That's wild.
Yeah. So it can tell me, of course it can tell me the average age, and it's in that age range. It's usually between the ages of, I think it's like late 20s to 45. So it's definitely, in that millennial age range, which makes sense because our clients come from that YouTube channel. They contact us from there. So it makes sense that's why not all, but a lot of our clients are in that age range, because we didn't used to work with a lot of millennials. I used to work with a lot more, maybe because when I started out, I worked with a lot of manufactured homes. And so I worked with a lot of like 55 and over parks. There were a lot of like different generations, but
how tech savvy are these millennials?
I don't know. What do you mean?
That's a real question. I mean, because if they're coming from online, my point is...
Oh, they're looking up... I was going to say, though, they're looking up... That's how they're finding realtors. They're looking up on YouTube. Like, the baby boomers aren't... Some of them are, because we do get retirees.
Very rare.
We get those people, too, but it is rare compared to how many millennials we get.
Yes.
So that... we're, like, hashing out, like, how we get our clients. We've never discussed this or really, like,
meeting.
We've never... Yeah, we're really having a business meeting here. Sorry, guys. But we've really never thought about, like, why is this the demographic we all of a sudden work with that we never used to work with? Like, that's where they're finding their realtors. They're looking on YouTube. And then the younger generation, the Gen Zs like us, they're looking on TikTok because we're getting TikTok leads too. And that's where the ones that are the Gen Zs that are buying houses, not the 12-year-olds, but the older Gen Zs, they're going on the TikTok. So we just solved our business issues right there. That's where our clients come from, and that's why.
You want to make a business model, get on a podcast and hash it out. Do it.
Should we finally get into like what we're talking about today?
Well, aren't we talking about millennials? We've been talking about the whole time.
We have, but we like haven't gotten to like why they want to buy a house.
Who doesn't want to buy a house? That's the real question.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so the first reason that millennials apparently want to buy a house is they want to build equity, and I don't blame them. Home ownership is a long-term investment that allows you to build wealth, increase your net worth, and become more financially stable. Beyond that, the alternative to owning a home is typically renting. With the way rents have risen so dramatically over time, it may make sense to build your own equity instead of the equity of the person you're renting from. So,
that's huge,
personal story.
Huge. Please share, because I got something too.
We have moved. So we just celebrated our 6th wedding anniversary, which is so crazy.
I was going with my year anniversary of living here.
Yeah. We got married at 19 and 20, and we bought our house. We did initially when we first got married, we did a rent to own, and then we like officially bought it. I think it was like 1 year. Yeah. And then we sold it like a week later. We weren't planning on doing that. But we actually have a whole podcast. We got to keep life fun. So, every time we've like sold a house, it's been like, we are not planning on selling it all. And then the day before we're like, we're going to do this. And
we say it all the time.
So honestly, we could move tomorrow. We don't know. So anyway, what was my point in saying this? Oh yeah. So we've been married for 6 years, and we've moved three different houses. We've lived in 3 different houses.
Locations,
yes,
3 different houses.
And each of these different houses that we've bought, sold, lived in, each of these different houses, like the very first one that we bought, though, thinking back to that, when we were looking at alternatives, because we obviously were exploring all of our options at the time. We were super young. Our resources were very limited. We didn't have a lot to work with. He had to sell his Jeep that he loved and his dirt bike to get a down payment for this house. And it was
closing costs.
It was such a low price. We didn't need a big down payment back then. But anyway, the moral of the story is we were looking at rents as well. And I remember back then rents were, gosh, I don't even want to say.
$1,400.
That was for like a house. You could find something for $1,000 a month easily. And I thought I was like, I can't imagine paying $1,000 a month rent. That's insane. And now, obviously, this many years later, like it's gone up so much. We could have been renting all that time because we were thinking we don't want to make the sacrifices we need to make to come up with this down payment, because it's not just going to happen. We did have to, make sacrifices, or we don't want to have a mortgage payment that's maybe a little bit higher than the average rent. But if we would have kept renting, rent's only going up. You're not building any equity. Right. And so that's just like one of the beautiful things about homeownership is, you're building equity, and that rent is only going to go up too. You're going to pay to live somewhere.
It's so big though.
Yeah.
And everybody has their own opinion. Everybody does. But if you look at it, if we were renting this whole time, I would not be worth on paper what I am today.
Not at all.
It was an ongoing joke growing up at my grandma and grandpa's house. They lived in Oregon. They had little small businesses. They were in the rental businesses. They've sold them off. But my brother and I would always joke. We'd be like, Grammy, you're rich. And for whatever reason, we always claimed her and that my grandpa to be rich. I don't know if it was just they had a better house than what we had or what, but we were very close. And her comment every time was, I'm only rich on paper.
That's funny.
And I'm like,
only on paper.
My gosh. And now that I'm older, and I get to talk to her and just pick her brain and just share experiences, because somehow I've inherited this real estate, side of me that I never knew existed until I met Mariah, and I didn't really even know that about my family, because my family, they work, they're employed, they're not
like business,
they're self-employed, they're not entrepreneurial, but my grandparents were. And the comment being rich on paper really stuck out and meant something to me, and now I understand that. And simply owning real estate is being rich on paper at times. Now, not every investment's a great deal. I was just listening to a podcast about a farmer buying land for $400,000+. Well, farming, it's a hard business at times. And what's that crop actually going to make you at the end of the day? So there are bad investments, but that's all that farmer knew. Was the moral of the story. Dad encouraged him to do it. Well, now he's got this $400,000+ debt over his head. Was that a good investment or not? That is real estate, and we do encourage you guys to go out and buy real estate. But when the numbers make sense, we can't just be out and say, yep, I'm going to go do this. We got to make sure our mortgage fits, right? So
the numbers need to make sense.
When we talk about today's rental prices, this is crazy. She was just mentioning how, $1,000, $1,200 was doable.
You can't find
We're looking at $2,300 minimum for a house. And being a homeowner, that's really encouraging. But if you're not, that's discouraging. So if we can influence anybody at this time, I think right now we want to take a second in the show and just say, you can do it. It might take some sacrifice. What's your annual income? Now let's go talk to a lender. That's your first step, guys. If no one has told you this and you're just going and viewing open houses and looking on our website and doing your mortgage calculator and saying, I can't get that, stop what you're doing right now. Contact us and let us send you a lender, a qualified lender that we personally use. He's going to get the job done. And if not, he's going to tell you what to do in a year advance of how we can make this goal happen. And that's the beauty of home ownership. I mean, there's goals, there's progress. For me, it's like that sports background of what am I going to do to be the best? Well, home ownership, what am I going to do to own this home? There's steps, there's A through D. There's things you need to do. And if you have not explored that yet, contact us. You see this video right now, contact us in the link below, and we'll send you a well-qualified lender, and he will tell you how to get the job done.
Yeah. And
done with that rant.
I would say, I love that rant. I would say there are options instead of just assuming or putting yourself in a category and saying, I can't be a homeowner or this, isn't going to work for me. Maybe your reasoning is, my income isn't that huge. I've sold homes to couples who both of them were baristas at Dutch Brothers. And I'm not saying that like, you can't, make good money, become a barista, whatever. Like, I'm not saying anything about that job, but I'm just saying that that's not necessarily a career that you might look at and be like, oh, you'd be able to buy a house. It's generally not the type of thing. Yes, but those were both of their only jobs, and they were able to qualify. We were able to find them a great home in Lebanon, one of the first houses I ever sold, actually, my first year in real estate when I was 18. And another thing is if your problem is you're thinking, I don't have money down, first I would look at, is there anything you could sell? How bad do you want it? Is there anything you could sell to make this sacrifice work? If not, you got a dirt bike laying around that you want to sell a car?
No.
Because you can always buy another one.
I'm only selling my toys if I'm in a pinch.
But you can always, but you did for the sacrifice of the first home, and now you have another one, and it doesn't matter.
Myself, yes. I had dirt bike, Jeep, quad, toy, whatever.
Yeah.
I sold it all off, and I told her when I did, I said, you know what? These are just items. These are materials. I will be successful, and I'll buy them all back. Yeah. I will buy them all back. 4 years later, I bought my dirt bike. I don't really need a Jeep. I got another car.
Yeah. And it's just much, much better use of your money to just start building that equity in a house. And then, once you're there for a year or however, then buy it again or whatever. But if you don't have, you just can't come up with the funds for your down payment, it's just not going to happen for you. I understand that it can be really hard to save, especially on, single family incomes, fixed incomes. Like, there's so many different situations. It can be really tough. We work with a lot of clients that are in that situation. So I totally get it. But there are loan programs that might work for you. Yeah. There are programs where you could put $0 down. So instead of just assuming that you're out, let's look at all your options. Let's see, is there absolutely anything that we could do? And then let's talk to a lender and try to see what the loan options are. And then say you're not pre-qualified for very much, let's talk to our realtor and see if our realtor knows of any type of housing that might work for me, because there's a lot. I won't go into this because we've done full shows. Go back to our channel and check it out. We have full episodes where we talk about like all of the different housing options, but I'm surprised at how many first-time buyers aren't aware that it's not just like a single family home and that's the only option. There's so many different types of real estate that you could invest in, and some of them are more affordable than single family homes. So end of my rant. And the next reason why millennials want to be homeowners is a change in life stage. As a millennial, you're reaching your prime home buying years, apparently.
You are.
It's true. They are. It's a great time to buy a house. A lot of people that are millennials maybe have families or are getting married and would make sense. Rising home values. By purchasing a home, you own an asset that traditionally increases in value over time. That can mean your home will have higher resale value if you do decide to move again in the future. And if you buy and hold, you're always going to be more than likely okay as long as you can make that payment.
And you know what's great? Here's the deal. Being a millennial, we just went over your age range. Okay, we're going to move on past that. No more talking about people's ages. I know how uncomfortable we can be. But
I don't know why.
The average, listen to this, though.
What?
This is a great statistic nationwide. Here in America, the greatest nation on earth, the average first-time home buyer, guess what age they are? 36.
First time?
First time. 36 years old. And this is nationwide, so big average number.
Oh, yeah.
But
a lot.
Think about that. That's a lot of years. I mean, we usually typically, you don't have to, but 18, move out of the house, go to college, do whatever.
It's a lot of years of renting, potentially.
For, what was that, 18 years?
It's a lot. That's a lot
double.
Of
I mean, 18 times 2. You're renting for that whole time until you're a first-time home buyer. I just simply could not imagine. And then having a roommate, like talk about all the life experiences and scenarios maybe that by the time you're 36, you've lived.
Right.
And you're just over. So what you just said, though, about
huge.
A lifestyle change, they're changing, mixing things up, that completely fits the bill.
I would say a big thing. I would say one reason I would assume that statistic, since it's nationwide, I would say if you looked in more of a smaller town, a more suburban town or different areas, I think that the numbers might look different. Like if you did the average in like Salem, Oregon, Albany, Oregon, I think it would look a lot younger. But I think the average got so high because obviously we have cities in our country like New York City, San Francisco, Seattle, where the home prices are where their cities where their population is so large that it does account for a lot of the people, and the home prices are just so astronomically high that obviously it makes a lot of sense that a 20-year-old or a 25-year-old is going to have a really hard time being able to just go out and buy a house in that city. So I completely understand.
And in comparison to last year in 2021, I was glancing down at the keys, and it went up by 3 years of age, according to the NAR, National Association of Realtors. So 33 years old was the average.
Oh, it was 33.
In 2021.
Okay.
Now they haven't came out 2023 statistics. So 2022, the average home sale buyer's age is 36.
For the first time. That's
it raised
crazy.
By 3
but
years.
But also
we just went through a lot.
The prices have gone up so much.
That's what's happening.
They've gone up so much, and there's so much talk. There's so much fear mongering, and like so much talk online about what crazy housing market that's bringing uncertainty. So I get that. Okay, so another reason why millennials want to be homeowners is they want to make something their own. Owning a home gives you a sense of freedom because you can customize it however you want, make updates as you see fit, and be yourself in a place that's solely your own. This reminds me, we did an episode a while back, like specifically about millennials. It wasn't this same topic, but I can't remember what it was. Something having to do with millennials and real estate, though. Okay. Maybe it was actually why millennials aren't buying houses as much as like other generations or as young or whatever.
It could have been.
And I think I remember. And I'm going
to build off that point.
One of the reasons was, though, because a lot of them simply aren't wanting to, because people are waiting nowadays longer to, we know people are waiting. We're parents, and we look around and see what it's like having a 3.5-year-old at our age. Right. Like, I've never considered us young, but I feel extremely young just when I go to a park or whatever. Like, people are waiting a lot longer to have kids and to get married, and so I think because of choices, they're wanting to, and I think because of that, people are maybe wanting to buy later. Not that you have to buy to have have a kid to buy a house or get married. Like, it's still a good idea to buy a house, but people see things differently.
What I think about perspectively is I got to put my feet where millennials at. So I like just kind of like mimicking maybe what their mindset is, and they've lived experiences. They've lived through a lot. Like I said, those early 90s, later 90s music, culture, internet boom. And then we're talking about the, not depression, but
the 08 crash. It definitely affected millennials more than, Gen Zs were a little younger.
Exactly. So if we realistically look at the psychology side of how the brain is operating, fear possibly, and just walking in the steps of maybe that they've lived through and experiences. We don't know how many foreclosed homes a millennial saw. Because their parents could have been foreclosed on, and they had to transition to a completely new home that they were just, you know what I mean? So when you look at things like that, true life experience, and this is what I love about being a coach as well, is you get to talk to people. They share experiences. And so not every statistic, like buying the age at 36, is you.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like that. So there's all types of variables and walks of life that people get to live. And that's one thing that I commend the millennial age is they've lived from a time where cell phones weren't a thing or just becoming brand new, and it was that big brick.
They had like razor phones. Do you remember those?
I remember like the early 2000s. It was like 2008.
Yeah, but I remember I have like cousins who are millennials and they're older than me, and I was like too young to have a phone, and they all had razors. I thought they were so cool. But then by the time I had a phone, it was like iPhones were coming out.
Yeah, that was so. Oh my gosh,
I never got to experience the razor.
It just progressed so quickly. But by the way, the flip phone's coming back. I feel it. A lot of
people are now having their eyes opened. Yeah. I've thought
Gen
about.
Zers.
I went through a period where I was like pretty set on getting a flip phone, and Yeah, I didn't. But like or even as a second phone. And then, anyway.
But what I'm saying is those experiences has definitely changed the perspective and way of thinking mentally.
Yeah.
And I mean, buying a house is not easy at times. It can be if you're working with the right lender and team. But with that being said, there are variables in life, and not every card is handed the same to people. So buying a house, it really is one of those accomplishments and honors that you may never even have to do again, because some people, they'll buy a house and they'll hold it forever and they're fine. They made their accomplishment happen.
Yep.
So,
and now they own it and get to just enjoy it, do what they want to it over time, or just not do anything and enjoy it over time. Either way. So speaking about though millennials, and like one of the reasons I think millennials are maybe more hesitant to buying real estate, especially right now with like all of the headlines and uncertainty in the housing market, is I know for sure I've had millennial clients that I've worked with, a handful of them, who have been almost like paralyzed. Like there are people who, I've had this happen a handful of times. They're paying very high rent, but are just so scared. Like they want to buy a house so bad, but they're just so scared to pull the trigger and actually buy, and just keep coming back to, but what if the housing market crashes? And like, they're just so fearful because they saw the 2008 crash. And let's just like put a little reminder out there to everyone that, like, yes, there are ebbs and flows and ups and downs in the housing market, but right now is not 2008. Like very different things were happening then than what are happening now. People are not, they're not giving out loans to people who should not have them. Like the restrictions are there. Things are looking totally different. Also, we're record low on inventory. So that's a problem in itself, to where how are home prices just going to all of a sudden drop drastically when no one is going to sell their house when they have a 3% interest rate. So
I think what you're trying to say is there's no all I'm trying to say sign of a crash.
All I'm trying to say is this isn't 2008. I do not see what happened then happening. I think that things will eventually soften and home prices will eventually even out and maybe even drop a little bit. But I really don't think, and this is what any other real estate agent and lender that I've talked to has said, they really don't think this massive, insane crash foreclosure crisis is going to happen again, just because things are looking a lot different.
Well, the state of economy, it's just straight up, let's go get employment. Yeah. We need employees, employ. And so when that is the major focus, well, there's going to be money being spent in our economy. So I just look at the employment rate. I look at the cost of products. Yes, that's up. I look at real estate, the cost of that. Yes, that's up. But inventory is so dang low.
Right.
People, the bidding wars are becoming a thing again.
Yeah.
It was wild the last time that happened. I just never kind of thought it would happen again. But we might be transitioning to that moment in time where if you're a new buyer out there and you're working with a broker saying, let's ask for the moon and back.
Yeah.
Well, those properties, they could get off market quicker than we're thinking, especially if they're priced accurately, because that inventory, people in specific areas really need a home. And when there's a property out there they've had their eye on and it's just been too hard to find and it does pop up, you bet there's going to be some bidding wars happening. There's going to be some appraisals being waived, and aggression is going to happen. So that's why it really does matter with the broker you're working with, because if you're dealing with average schmo here that just got a license a year ago, for the fun of it, real estate was good, it could be a rocky road for you. So you definitely want to gain experience through different markets, and Mariah can definitely attest to that one in our team here in Oregon.
Okay, so one last piece of advice for what I would tell millennials or even Gen Zs who are wanting to buy a house for the first time. You don't own a home yet, you're first-time buyers. This is what I would say is, don't be fearful. You can't time the market. I truly don't believe that. I remember back in 2020, everyone was predicting that home prices were going to drop in half in 6 months. The complete opposite happened, and home prices are still going up. You can't time the market. The best time to buy is when it works for you, when you need a home, when maybe you're paying high rent and you could get the mortgage payment the same price or maybe a little higher or maybe even a little lower. That's probably a good idea. Real estate is the safest investment, especially if you're buying something and you're not like in a situation where you need to sell it in a year. If you're in a situation, maybe if you're flipping a house, that's different. But if you're buying a house and you can afford to stay there, you can hold on for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, I would say max, like then yeah, you really have nothing to lose. You're going to gain equity over time. Don't try to time the market. Just buy when it works for you and buy when you can afford it and buy when the numbers make sense.
Yeah.
Because no one knows what's going to happen. Like no one knows what's going to happen in the housing market. Nothing would surprise me.
And the majority of my buyer clients right now,
yeah,
they're looking all along the I-5 corridor specifically. They want to be next or near to I-5. And all they're caring about, if you hear one thing as to how am I going to buy a home right now, it's what's your average mortgage going to be? Then go talk to the lender. How am I going to make that happen?
Yeah.
Because people are so concerned about their monthly incomes, their average incomes, and they want to be able to pay their mortgage. People don't want to go into debt. They don't want to go into that foreclosure state and be so stressed out of their minds with bills that they can't afford to pay them. So the majority of my clients are just saying, Spence, I want to keep my mortgage between this number and this number. How are we going to do that?
Yep.
And so
that's what matters. That you can make that payment.
Only thing that
That's really what matters
for them.
Yeah,
because they understand interest rates. Well, let's refinance when it makes sense. Okay, whatever. Let's get you a home because this is where you want to be. This is the right destination, and this is their choice, not ours. Our job is to open the door, get an offer accepted, negotiate on your behalf, and give you those keys at closing.
Yeah. Okay, so if you have watched this video all the way through, thank you so much. Hit the like button, share with a friend who wants to buy a house. And if you are thinking about buying a home in Oregon, we'd love to work with you. Feel free to contact us anytime. I'll put our contact information below. And if you are thinking about buying or selling real estate anywhere outside of the state of Oregon, contact us and we will set you up with a solid realtor wherever you might be located. We come on here every week with new videos, so don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next week.